Oh, friends in Facebook land and YouTube land. It's Andy here. I'm here without Bambos for the moment. He's running around in Cyprus on a bike trying to get behind his computer to join us today. So he'll be sweating when he gets here, but he will be here. So please, if you're here to see Bambos, do stay because he will be coming. Today, we have JoAnn Lovascio. JoAnn is one of our first guests. So way back in episode, I don't know, 5, we coaxed her in to joining us. So you can go back and listen to that episode where we spoke a lot about her somatic work, because JoAnn has been really supportive of both Bambos and I. And she's also written about In the Last Letter. And she's also written about, I'm not even sure if she's aware of that, Bitten the Wounded Healer as well, because she was helping me with introductions to other people. So she's in both of the books. And like I love doing, there's people I love, and then we talk occasionally. And JoAnn said, Andy, I've got this thing I want to share, but I don't know if I want to share it. And then we had this talk. It must have been less than a year ago. And she said, I got scammed. So I said, oh my God, I want to do this on the show. And of course she's like, Andy, Jesus, I don't want to do that show, but we're going to do it on the show. She's kind enough to be able to allow us to all learn and grow from the experience. So we're on with JoAnn Lovascio, and the subject is I Got Scammed. I hope you enjoy us for the hour. Bye-bye. So this for me is a really interesting topic for a lot of reasons. I noticed when I have certain emotions, they're harder for me to recover from. And one of the emotions that I've seen in my life that's the hardest to recover from is betrayal. Like when I feel like I've been taken advantage of. And if I look at, like, someone says something nasty to me, okay, I can live with that. Or I have an expectation that goes unfulfilled. I kind of see I can take responsibility for that. But when somebody actively is manipulating me, and then I feel I've fallen for it, then there's this, it's like, I would almost call it like the phases of death. So I go through like the anger, then the sadness, then the guilt, then the shame, like all of these kind of phases all come together. And that's why when JoAnn talked about doing a show on this, that I got scammed, or allowed me to bring her on for it, it was really a beautiful opportunity, because I know that we all go through those emotions, and it's so weird to share them on so many levels. Because if you think about it, at least for me, there becomes a real shame in it. I've noticed that when I feel like I got scammed, then I feel like somebody's taken advantage of me, and I just feel like I've been made to look stupid. So that was one of those meta themes that I really thought would be beautiful to bring her on and to discuss. And yeah, just to hear what the journey was like, and the processes she went through. So JoAnn Lovascio is going to be joining us now, and I'm going to bring her on. Hello, JoAnn Lovascio.
Hey, hi, Andy.
I know that you did not want to come on for this topic.
At 8 o'clock in the morning.
And it's so funny because, like, you are proficiently one, I would say, of the best somatic practitioners in the world. Like, I know you wouldn't say that of yourself, but that you're training the people that do that work. So you're totally skilled and qualified in areas that you could talk about for hours at a time. But I'm bringing you on to discuss this topic.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm human.
Yes. How does it feel? Because I know, I mean, when we said, you agreed with me, you said, Andy, I'll come on. We didn't have a topic, right?
Yeah,
We said, I threw four. I threw 4 at you. And I think this was the least bad of the 4.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's interesting because I haven't thought about this whole thing that happened. When did it happen now? It was probably like several months ago, but I haven't really been processing it anymore. I think I pretty much got through it. And so as I'm sitting here, I'm like feeling like exposed again and like, okay, here's all those feelings again that were so intense. Like I was just like lit up on every level of all those like rage and, like I'm gonna go find this person. I'm gonna go like
Yeah.
beat him up. Like just so
Yeah.
it's interesting to just sit here and go, wow, they're all right here. And here's the exposure. And luckily the shame, yeah, maybe, it's probably somewhere lurking, but I don't really feel shame anymore. I mean, I learned so much about
Yeah.
myself. I learned about like how I sort of trust people for their word. Like
Yeah.
I really do. Like and I mean, many things we can talk about that after we sort of go through what
Yeah.
happened. But so, yeah, I feel like, okay, I'm going to relive it again. Thanks, Andy.
Exactly. Yes, we're going to go back in history to a moment you'd prefer not discussing.
Like ever think about again for the rest of my
Ever.
life,
There's some like
like,
chest that we want to put like away.
yeah,
I'm
like I
trying.
think I had a blackout and then I woke up and something terrible happened and I said yes to it. So like, okay.
Well, we can segue to other topics when Bambos comes on. He's in Cyprus right now. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but he's going through a lot of he's meeting family
Yeah,
who he's never seen before. So it's
so great.
a big learning experience, changing himself and then being back in an old environment. You know how wild that is.
It's so wild. Ram Dass said, if you think that you're awakened, go spend a week with your family
Yeah.
and then talk to me about it. I always loved that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
So, by the way, speaking of just a quick Ram Dass, every time I see anything from him in any shape or form, I always just feel more connected to just being alive.
Yeah.
From all of the practitioners out there, like he's the one who I feel like I've gravitated to most because there is an almost never in any element of feeling of superiority in however I've come to connect with his content. It's always very
Yeah.
human, down to earth.
Very human. Yeah.
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 Thank you.
So take me back. So now,
Okay.
so like frame this for me. You go to, is it an online dating site or where do
So,
you meet the fucker? Like, let's start
okay.
there.
So, it's COVID,
Yeah.
right? I'm single and I think I got on a couple of dating sites and thought, we'll see what happens. Like, it'd be nice to have a COVID lover.
Yeah.
Basically what I was looking for. And so I met this guy and when I tell the story, it's like a trip because I'm telling the story and every single red flag like that I didn't see started from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like right now I'm saying it and it's like, God, JoAnn, like what the
Yeah.
fuck? Like God, JoAnn, like
In
so
reverse, it always is logical. That's always the point, right?
I mean, it's like I'm seeing it as I'm talking to you, like
Yeah.
visually, I'm seeing every moment where I was like, anyway, so but I think during COVID, like I did okay during COVID, but the isolation, like no person, like all of that, I think for a lot of people,
Yeah.
who weren't partnered at that time, it either was okay, and it was okay, but there was that thing,
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that added to the over enthusiasm,
Yeah.
of attention.
Yeah.
So I met him online. We emailed back and forth. He said that let me think how that went. He was from San Francisco, so I live in the Bay Area, and but he was leaving in a week to go to Europe because he was a soccer agent and had teams all over the place that he sort of brought up and coming soccer kids into professional, get them on teams and stuff.
Yeah.
And he'd been doing it forever, and so I said, okay, well, let's just wait till you get back. As well, I'm not going to be back. Hey, Thambos. Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you.
My apologies.
It's okay. I'm just starting the story of the fucker. That's what we're calling it.
I was listening a bit in the car. So,
Okay, great. Nice. So that was the beginning narrative. He's going away.
How does he? Do you get in contact? Can we mention the app that you're on doing this, or is that like a private? Okay, so when you're no, I just want to get a sense. Is it like you contact him, or is it a matchmaking thing, or how do you actually have the initial contact with this?
I mean,
fucker?
You contact somebody that you like, and then they like you back, and then you decide if you want to chat.
Yeah.
So at that time, we were talking on the phone. Now, here's the backdrop. Super fucking sexy French accent. I am so easy, like, please, it's just like, and very attractive, really open, very seemingly honest about his life, And so we started talking, and then
so he knows how to behave in a way to make himself very appealing to women. That's clear.
Absolutely.
And in such a way that it's hard to tell that it's all a scheme. Like he does it, and he does it well enough that you see like even his maybe imperfections, and he even lets you see that a little bit. Is that how good he is, or does he hide that?
Yeah, I mean, he was very upfront. He knew that I was a therapist, so I think he played that also, not excessively, because if somebody would have had me start taking care of them and processing them after meeting him twice, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not working, So, but, again, now that I'm telling the story, so in the beginning, he's like, he told me sort of the story of his life, which has these like really hard things in it, which most of us have some hard things in it. But these were like epic. His wife and him got divorced. Then she died of brain cancer. His daughter, his house is, owns the house that he's living in because he gave it to her because it was the right thing to do. She's not talking to him, and then he found out from her boyfriend that she's pregnant, and he's maybe not going to see the baby. So already there's a backdrop of my empathy is like, lit, right? I'm like, wow, that's a lot. I'm sorry.
Do you think by chance the stories may have even been in some ways true, and that he sort of embellished, or do you think it was really all made up?
It's hard to know.
Oh, what does your instinct tell you?
I mean, in the beginning, I felt like it was true. Okay. But then when, sort of the shit hit the fan, it was like, I don't believe anything. You're like, I have to believe nothing, which is really hard for me. I learned that.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, yeah, you tell me something, I believe you. So I'm a perfect target for that. Not anymore.
Yeah.
I hope. I mean, I have more awareness about that part of me. And it's complex there because I wanted my COVID lover. Like all this was happening. So the story went on, and then he's like, I'm leaving to go out of, to Europe, and I'll be there for 3 months, and it's a big deal. Like, I've got to get this team, I'm raising money, blah, blah, blah. The whole story about his business. I'm like, great, let's connect when you get back. And he goes, well, let's stay connected while I'm there. I'm like, okay. So that connection started he was checking in with me probably every couple of days. We were talking about a lot of our lives. We were really sharing pretty honestly. I was sharing honestly. He seemingly was sharing whatever. And he started the connect, like he really started building a connection with me,
Yeah.
as I did as well, you know. And so this is going on now for a month, but where was he? He was like in, damn, I can't remember now. It was some obscure place in the Soviet Union. But I started, you know, like I said, look, I can't talk to a computer. Like I need to see you, right? So he goes, okay, well, let's try to get on one of the links. And so we get on and it's really bad. Like the connection's bad. It keeps going out. He's sort of blurry. It's going in and out. He's like, look, you know, where I am, it's just really bad. And I don't think we're going to be able to do this. And I'm like, well, that sucks. But all right. You know,
Was
later.
it the same? By the way, so you already had a picture of the fucker, and
Yeah.
then the picture was who showed up as well. So that was clear. There was
Yes, but it was kind of like a little blurry. It wasn't like you couldn't see it, you know, like very well. Like you couldn't see him very well. So then we just, you know, would connect on like WhatsApp or something and talk every other day, like months now. We're talking a couple of months. Yeah. And then he basically is professing his, like, when I come back, you know, like, I just feel clear you're an amazing woman. And I really want to like connect with you and be with you. I have no doubts. Like, he's like 100% in. And I'm like, look, I haven't even like been next to your body. Like, you know, I don't even know how you smell. Like, you know, like, I can't say that I'm 100% in. Like, that's ridiculous, you know, and I'm challenging this. I'm like, how could you? I mean, I get you feel that way. I don't want to discount your feeling. But for me, like, there's a whole lot more that has to happen for me to, like, you know, I just need to sit next to you, you know, like. But
we say this months. You're having a talk every other day with this individual for say 2 or 3 months.
Yes.
But not a video call, but a voice call.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And whenever we tried to do video, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
He was in Romania, is what he said.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're in a thing, you know, like I'm waiting for the phone call. I'm looking forward to talking to him. It's the dead of winter and COVID's happening. And I've got this like, you know, hot Frenchman who's going to come back and, you know, sweep me off my feet. Maybe. So, you know, that was sort of my innocence and my, you know, I guess I was hopeful, you know, and I think there was so much attention.
Yeah.
Like there was so much attention. And during a time when, you know, we were all really isolated. So I think it amped all that up. So then what happened was I started looking him up, and I started looking him up, and I'm like, why can't I find, he's a soccer agent. Like, how could I not find him?
Yeah.
So I confronted him about that. And I said, you know, I tried to look you up, and he got a little defensive. He's like, why would you do that? You don't trust me? Like, he was really pushed back. And I said, well, I don't know that it's about trust. I just was curious about you. And people look people up on the internet. You know, that's what we do. I said, I couldn't find anything. He goes, well, you don't understand this business. And then he gave me a whole narrative about like the soccer agent business. And, you know, he's been doing it for 30 years and it's a very secretive, you know, club, and you don't put stuff out, you know, this whole thing. Well, what do I know? Right. So I'm like, I'm still looking it up though. Like I started looking it up. I'm like, how could you can't find this guy? Right. Like, how could it be I can't find him? So then I just sort of let that go, you know, I just went, okay, well, fuck it, you know, I'll just let it go. So there was a place where one of those moments where I just, you know. So then what happened was he started a narrative about having to raise money for this one soccer player. And he sort of did that incrementally a little bit over time, dropping little hints that he had to raise this money, but he was talking to somebody in New York and he was blah, blah, blah. Like he had all these resources he was checking in. But then he would sort of touch back in and go, yeah, nothing's coming through. I'm starting to get a little stressed. I'm going to lose my daughter's home. I'm going to, then I'll probably never get to talk to her and I'm going to lose everything. So at that point, what happened emotionally a little bit was, or maybe not a little bit, was like, wow, if this doesn't work, this guy's going to move back to Canada. And then this whole thing has just been like, it's going to end. It's like over because of this thing. So like that got under my skin a little bit.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was saying to myself, JoAnn, do not give him any money. JoAnn, you cannot do this. Like, don't do this one thing, So I had that running. Both of those were running pretty strongly.
Wow. Because I mean, what I hear is that like I don't think people realize the depth and the time frame with which a scammer will work a scam. Like, I think that is that if anything, someone would take away from the show is that they have an unending patience to like allow you to believe whatever they need. It could take a year because I think after a year, I've built up even more credibility, and then it's easier for them because now they have to not only deal with 3 months of feeling like I've trusted this person, now they have to deal with a year of believing. So you have more leverage the longer you hold that lie.
Absolutely. And he had in retrospect now I can see that he had every conversation really organized. Like that whole big picture of how he was going to get me off my ground, what was planned.
Yeah.
And everywhere I went in my doubt or in my questioning, he had everything backed up emotionally, psychopathically, like everything was so tight that I couldn't really, like anywhere I tried to go, there was just, he just had it planned,
I was going to say, I think the lesson, and I would love it if people do get to watch this, is that I think people underestimate the duplicity of people like this. If there's one thing I would love this show to highlight is the depth and the creativity and the sincerity with which someone can present themselves in a way that it's hard, and doubly is painful because you're also in the field of actually figuring out, behavioral inconsistencies. So in some weird way, he's feeding off of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he fed it because I think he knew the work I did. I think he fed it from a really like beautiful, deep, emotional place. Yeah. And that was really not only confusing, but he was tricky, man. He was tricky, like really, really tricky. So, so this is going on, and now he's building the story about it's not working. Now I've just got to raise 50 grand, and I mean, there was one point where I just thought, well, just like give him the 50 grand so he stops fucking talking about this shit. I'm so tired of hearing about it. And I wasn't going to do that, but I was like, I'm tired of hearing about like that. I started to get tired. Like, why am I processing this guy's stress around work, every morning? Because of course he's supposedly in Romania. So we're talking at like 7 o'clock in the morning and in my time.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to get a little agitated about it, right? Like, so my agitation about the story and all his stress, So that kept going on for weeks and weeks. And then finally one day, this is where I lost my ground. Finally one day, he said, I have to raise $20,000. I'm down to 20 grand. And I'm like, well, I'm sure you can figure out how to do that. Like, that's not a lot of money. And I was like stressed. I was pissed. I was sick of this fucking conversation, I'm just like, I'm so tired of this. And I said, well, why don't you just go find 4 people to give you 5 grand? Like, just go find 4 people. And in that moment, he said, are you one of them? And I just said, sure, fine. Like, I'll just give you 5 grand. And then I got off the phone, and and then what happened is, like, I sort of went into this weird state. Like, here I am having to start to see clients, and he's like, it has to happen before 3:00 today. So now I'm actually stressing out on the computer, trying to wire money, and I'm hurrying. I get on the bank, I do the wire transfer. The bank calls me and they go, do you know this person? Have you seen this person? You're wiring money to like Shanghai, have you seen him? And I'm like,
so the bank knows, by the way, the bank knows it's a scam because they see this happen daily, and their red flag comes up. And even as their red flag comes up, they call you specifically to say, hey, we think you're in a scam, but they don't say that, obviously.
I wish they would have pressed more in retrospect, because I was so confused in that moment. Like, I was really jumbled, I was not good, I was like, this doesn't feel right. I want to get rid of this. I want it to stop. I want to come back to all the like juicy stuff that was happening, because that sort of started falling away when he was getting more and more stressed.
Yeah. And,
and when the guy at the bank said, if you wire this, you're not going to get it back. And and I'm like, no, I know the person. And I was like, I don't know, but I knew him. He had me in there. And so I did that. But then what was interesting was I called him and I said, the bank thinks this is a scam. And I feel uncomfortable about this. And he basically sort of like started like, going, what's wrong with you? Can't you feel our connection? Like, sort of yelling at me about our connection.
Wow.
So then I went, oh, fuck, this is really bad, So within 24 hours, unfortunately, in 24 hours, I couldn't retract the money.
Yeah.
But what happened then was, I started paying to research him, like there's these online things where you can look up people's history. I couldn't find him anywhere.
Yeah.
I had a promissory note that he sent me with the address of his mother's supposed house in Canada. It was a street name, but there was no house. So now I'm like, oh my God, it happened. I totally got scammed. So then, I reported to the bank and, let them do their thing. But what happened then was, I was so pissed.
Yeah.
And I was so hurt and I was so shocked and I felt so stupid. Like, the stupidity thing was like the worst,
Yeah.
It just felt like there's where the shame came. It's like, what the fuck, and then I started seeing everything that happened, and then
it's like the Sixth Sense. And then all of a sudden you see all the scenes in your head that are played out. Oh.
And then like, I couldn't tell anyone. That's how much shame I had. Like, even my best friend, I'm like, oh my God, and that went on for a couple of weeks. But what I did was, I played like I didn't know.
With him.
So I wrote him and I said, oh my God, my daughter, who's a single mother, is going to buy a house and she's short some money. And I have to get that money back from you because I really need that money for my daughter. So I started like reverse psychology and just started leaning into him and writing and calling and writing. And I was like so pissed, you know, and I'm like, this is serious, you know.
But you're
Okay.
calling, but you're calling and speaking to him after the scam has happened. What are those calls like? Like, how do you even hold yourself from not yelling at him on the phone?
Oh, I was so infuriated that I was going to fuck with him. Like, I was so infuriated that I was like so together. And I was even, one time I even cried on the phone. I'm like, I have to do this for my daughter. Like, I went into it, you know, like, I mean, I think I was a little like loopy at that point, but I was so angry.
Yeah.
I was so angry and really hurt, you know, and like, it felt like, who does that? Who could do that for that many months? Like, what, you know, who, what? I just like, wow. So he kept saying, I'll see what I could do. I'll try to get your money back. This is terrible. I'm never going to talk to you again. Everything that we were going to have is not going to happen anymore. And I'm just like, yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kept pressing him. And one day, I think I finally couldn't hold back anymore. And I just wrote about who I thought he was. And I just, you know.
Yeah.
Basically laid it out. And we were still on, I guess it was WhatsApp or something, but he wrote, stop, just stop, like stop, you know? And he kept saying, please stop. I like, stop it. And I'm like, no, and I'm not stopping, like, you know? So basically it just sort of fell away like that. Like he stopped, you know, he wasn't on that site anymore. He was gone, you know. I said what I had to say. I got it out toward him. And, you know, I filed police reports and, you know, I called, you know, got in touch, did all the stuff you do. But, you know, it was quite a journey, right?
Yeah. When I want, take me back if you can to that moment, like when you do find when you figure out it's a scam, you said you were angry, and like how in your brain do you go through that journey? Like what's that look like?
Well, I mean, the first thing that happens is shock.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you dissect. I dissected every moment where I missed it. Like days and days and weeks of like going back over it and back over it and back over it. It was like it just wouldn't stop. Like it kept like, wow, what, you know, and so my brain is like processing that, you know, and really emotionally, it's just like the level of, I just felt so stupid.
Yeah.
Like stupidity was like where I went, you know, and then shame and embarrassment and also then where I landed was just with my heart, you know. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, like, whoa, wait a minute. Like this, not that I would blame myself, but like, look where you put your heart. Like, look where you put your heart without really knowing what you need to know.
Yeah.
Or feel.
Yeah.
Which I think happens on online dating. You know, you're trusting without being near a person. You're not there yet. You know, it takes time. And, you know, then after all the methodical breaking down every moment and going through all the emotions, I think where I ended up was, wow, like, it just sort of like learning to, what do I need to learn to trust somebody?
Oh, yeah.
With my heart.
Mm.
And what do I need to learn to trust in myself, that I'm taking good care of my heart?
Mm.
And that opened up a lot of, I mean, the process I went through after that recognition and I mean, it took me through codependency. It took me through, where I'll take care of somebody else before myself. It's like everything that had any threads attached to that kind of behavior then became my process for a good couple of months,
Wow.
which has been great.
I was going to say, that sounds like an incredible gift you got from this experience.
Yeah, no, it really was. It really was. Like I had to move some places in myself that I wasn't tending to as precisely as I needed to, or as attentively as I needed to. And I feel grateful for that now. I mean, it took a while to get grateful, but
what would you say, like, if you say what you learned from it, or how it how did it shape you going forward? Like, what do you do differently now in your connections, say even online dating, that you didn't do before, if anything?
Well, I kind of shut down all my online dating stuff for a while, that's done. Like I mean, I have one person I met and we're sort of in a friendship, but I just stopped because I have to be in person. I can't, doesn't work. But what did I learn? I mean, so much. There's something that happens with longing that, there's the longing. If we're longing is beautiful, right? It's beautiful. But without a ground, longing takes me outside of myself. And I sort of evacuate my my ground, my presence, like what I know and what I intuit. I left my intuition.
Yeah.
I left my intuition and a lot. And so, so like longing and intuition, like longing and staying here, is really like, it's like when I feel my longing for something now, I just go right back in and go, you got to sit here, sweetheart, until you're like ready to move an inch, like. And I think that's the most important piece I got, is that when my longing is really activated and there's love and there's, connection, that I'll tend to step away from my intuition.
Wow. Well, it's almost the Buddhist practice, almost when you attach to something outside of yourself as a desire, you're no longer in connection with yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're blinded by what you want.
Yeah.
So it's I could imagine.
Yeah. So it's like really, like, I think the biggest thing is like stay with yourself no matter what. Like just stay here, like just stay, and
obviously people out there like Fucker actually know that this is a deep desire from individuals, and that sadly you also see, I was even targeted, right, because of whatever he saw that he could utilize against me, which has got to be doubly as kind of painful, because it was like, oh wow, I was chosen in a way,
Yeah, I mean, they figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
They study people.
Yeah.
It feels like a full-time job.
Yeah.
JoAnn, as you were speaking, I was wondering, were you sharing with friends that you met someone online? Like, were you having people where you talked about it?
Yeah, like I was talking about him. I was talking about, what was going on and what was happening. I mean, I think at one point I even told my best friend, I said, he's sort of going through this money thing and he's asking, sort of intonating for money, but I'm not going to do anything. And, she's like, yeah, don't do that. So I was talking about the connection a lot. And I was also like, I was still in the place of like, I mean, he thinks we're going to run off into the sunset and live together. And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm not going to do that until I meet, I got to hang out with the person, I don't. But so I always did have that awareness, but boy, I got tangled,
it's spring here in Amsterdam. and I've been hanging out with single friends, male and female. Bambos, this isn't about Bambos specifically, but he's also in a group. What I've seen is that the people's call it the shit they're dealing with is increasing because of their sexual desires that are coming out with spring. So I have all these friends that were kind of through winter, they were doing great. They were very much connected. Spring is happening and they're starting to go out to the markets, meet women or men or whatever they're doing. And then they get entangled these in relationships and you see how disconnected they become, how frustrated they are. They're not getting what they need and all that kind of narrative that derives from it. And I'm kind of laughing to myself that it's almost like, so, wow. So as soon as you are out of relationship with yourself because you're needing the thing that there others isn't giving you, all of a sudden you go back into this terrible part of your brain that doesn't bring you joy.
Yeah.
And I see it so quickly because that the app, right, the app that gives you instant stimulus dopamine hit of, oh, might be able to screw that one. Oh, might be able to screw that one. Like psychologically, you're in this sort of addictive dopamine hit run, and then all of a sudden, you're confronted with the reality that now you kind of want to execute on it. Now you want to take it next step.
It's right. And also, like, what about the idea, or what do we think about around the way to meet people now is swiping and on computers, right? Like, I mean, I understand it. Technology helps us in that way. And, but wow, like that's not how we used to meet people. Like you see somebody, right? And you get turned on and you're like lit up and you're like, oh my God, I want to know that person, Now it's like, this level of no intimacy or lack of intimacy while you're trying to have intimacy. I mean, like it's a little crazy making, like to me, it's just like, wow. And how that works out for people, I don't know. I mean, everyone deals with it differently, some people get into it and think it's fun and swipe away and they have lots of coffee dates and it's exhausting,
Yeah, that's what I was saying to the friend is like, you were so much happier when you weren't on those apps.
Yeah.
I had to delete the apps myself a while back ago because it gets so addictive.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like I would actually at some point I was like, okay, this is addictive. Let's have fun. And I start recording myself swiping.
Bombos.
Recording the screen actually. And it's just insane. At some point, it's like, fuck, this is not working out for me. It really isn't. JoAnn, I want to go back a little bit to the guy called Fucker in this case. I love it.
I love it too.
Like, as you were sitting and talking, and I was allowing him to enter me in a way of, what do I need to become to be him? Because, like, in my body, if I lie, I can't sleep.
Right. Right.
So what needs to shut down in me in order to be able to live in that way?
Yeah.
And when I say that out, it's like, yes, he's a fucker. We're kind of having fun with the word, but on another end, he's fucking lost.
Yeah.
Well, I thought about it too. I thought, imagine what he is carrying from ripping women off, like through this lifetime, right? Like, not that maybe he knows that, but I could feel that, right? Like what you're saying, Bombos, like imagine any of us having that life where we're really kind of psychopathic, not kind of, and have no care about another human being and gets off and gets love and attention and a woman to care for them and connect and love them. And then they get to, like, basically get you and then you carry that. So it's this like bizarre dichotomy of love and attention and dreams and like fucking rage and annihilation somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be walking around with that every day.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he's not walking around with it every day. He's kind of switched it off in a way that he doesn't feel the impact he has on other people.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is, JoAnn, end of last year, for 2.5, 3 months, I met someone online.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful connection. Actually, we're still connected.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Nice. This is a biggie. I forgot that you actually had a role in my life.
Yes, I remember this.
Yes.
And there was a moment where I did buy a ticket to go visit this individual. And as I was sharing that's why I asked you also if you spoke with a friend, because I had a friend who said I was crazy. Like Andy told me, "Oh, fuck, you're adventurous, live a little." And this other individual was like, "No, this is dangerous. Like, they don't have an actual address." Like he asked me to give him stuff. He researched. He came back. He's like, "Bro, it's very inconsistent." I froze because in a way, I had all this reference with this individual. Also, on social media, I saw that she's interactive. So there's a lot of things showing me that she's real. And then there was this other friend that was giving me all this heavy scenario. And I packed my suitcase. I'm sitting in my living room. And I'm just sitting with. Actually, do you know what made me not go? It wasn't my intuition. It was, if, let's say, this woman gets me kidnapped, and she knew about my relationship with Andy, and knowing that Andy is pretty well off, in a way, I might create a situation where I get kidnapped and Andy gets blackmailed.
Oh my God.
And in a way, I said, by going there, I'm causing harm. I might cause harm to someone that I love. And in no way am I going to put myself in such a position, because I'm a photographer. Like, what, are they going to steal my camera? Like, fucking take it. But like, the idea of this impacting, Andy, which is 1 second. There. I wouldn't be able to live with that. So it was very painful though, because she was really crying the next day, like she was really looking forward, and I felt it, but I also shared with her honestly how it was for me, and I just couldn't make that step.
Yeah. In retrospect, does that feel good to you that you did that? I mean, given that you're still talking to her, and
I don't regret it. No, it had to happen. It was.
Yeah.
I also saw it as part of the journey, but there was something when Andy shared with me your experience. I have you very high in my books in terms of intuition. Then I just saw, wow, I have to surrender to something. Like, I have to agree that I don't see the whole picture. And if it can happen to JoAnn, then I have to like just sit and look at myself in the mirror and agree that I don't know shit. I'm very intuitive and all that, but I have to also park that and connect to that I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So thank you for being
Let's say you saved one person. You could have saved one person, JoAnn, just by sharing your story. Yeah.
But online dating seriously has been a headache.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how many women, they go straight to, hey, can I have your WhatsApp? And I'm like, hey, but this app, we can video call. Like, I don't want to give you my number. And then they stop talking to you. And then I'm like, okay, this is not a real person.
Right.
Like I would say I used online dating in a way that I'm alert. I'm not going to make the interaction easy in the beginning just to see how human it can get.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a space which I enjoyed navigating. And
No, and the thing is like if you're on an online dating site and you're both on, or you're on there because you want to meet somebody and connect with somebody, hopefully that feels good, and
Yeah.
that person's not willing to get on a video chat with you, you know,
it's a big no.
yeah, like I wouldn't even, like, maybe the first time you have a conversation, but if they're not willing to the second time to get on a video chat, like forget it, you know, like it's just like crazy making, right? It's like you're talking about connection and you won't get on a screen,
Yeah.
like right there's a flag that is like now gigantic, you know, it's like no. But I hear you. It's tricky territory because your heart, you know, you're longing, like you're, you know, you want to meet somebody, right? It's like it'd be lovely, you know.
Yeah, it's how to stay open and grounded, open and
Yeah.
grounded, open
Yeah.
and
There's
grounded.
people, right, who've met online, who got married and are together and have beautiful relationships, you know. It's like it happens. Um, but you know, I've seen it's happened to me also one time before where somebody, I sort of told this guy off and then I blocked him and then he took his picture and went under a whole nother profile and then found, I was in LA, you know, because it shows up with people in your area, and he showed up on my dating site with a different name, same picture in Los Angeles. You know, like there's people on these sites that's they're getting off on it, just like we're getting addicted to swiping.
Yeah.
They're getting addicted to like attention and fucking around, and you know it's
Yeah.
not good, you know, it's hard.
Well,
So
we've saved Magda from online dating. She says, "I'm scared of online dating. Haven't tried it yet. Now even more." And
no,
both
you
along,
just have to be really smart.
yeah, both along mentioned earlier. It's such a sad story to listen, even though JoAnn is laughing about it now. Yeah, and she
Yeah.
also adds that I suspect that the man has a family. The scamming is a career for him. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I'm laughing now. I'm not really. I mean, it was a hit. You know, I mean, it was really hard, and I have distance from it now, and the what I gained from it was so valuable. And it was just one of those hard lessons. And Andy was great. You know, Andy's like, this is, you know, what, I forget what you said. You said something to me like, Jesus, it's only $5,000. What, you know, you pay
Exactly.
that for like 6 months, you know, 2 months of therapy. Like you just, you know, like, you're right. Okay.
Well, I mean, if we look at it, there's clearly, if we look at the lesson that you gained from this, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I see one of the hardest lessons that I have had, and I see others have, and I mentioned it about spring earlier, is that there's this desire that pulls us away from ourselves. And it gets it's so addictive and attractive, and it just draws you out. And then you're like, oh, I want to have sex. Oh, I see all the women are wearing skimpier outfits, and I just get charged. And all of a sudden, I've now lost connection with myself, and therefore I'm going to my apps to try to fulfill some sort of addictive thing. And yeah, I've just seen it happen so quickly. So the humor is like, how do you allow yourself to feel it and not get lost in the situations that you just described?
That's not the nature of Eros, my dear.
How much more do you have to lose in order to learn the lesson?
Yeah, and I realized, boy, I have to, you know, the deeper the wound, well, let's see if I would say it that way. Like when I feel like the wound of let's say loneliness or abandonment, or you know, something like that would be the wound that would create that longing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, for me now, it's like that wound, when I feel it, like if I feel myself going out from the lonely place or the grasping place,
Yeah.
all now it's just like that wound is genius, man. It is just taking me and turning me back to myself and saying, don't leave, man. Like stay right here
Mm.
and wake up right there. Like there's nowhere that wound has to take you to go find anywhere else. And so that is one thing I really appreciate about the journey of life. And clearly I have to, I learn, if I have deep stuff I have to learn, it's never been easy.
Yeah.
I don't learn by like easy things, like,
Yeah.
I don't have that path this lifetime. Like,
I was gonna, and you've probably resolved enough of the easy stuff that like the big stuff is what's really required,
yeah, and it just goes deeper, like more consciousness in the place where there's a wound. Like it's great when it wakes up,
Yeah.
So
I was with family this evening. That's why I was late again.
Yeah, I've loved your pictures.
Yeah.
Well, this is family that is on my father's side, so we were not connected all these years.
Uh-huh.
So this evening, my sister also joined, and it was really beautiful.
Wow.
But I'm mentioning this now because my first cousin and his wife, we found each other through his wife, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying how they met, because I asked them, like, hey, how did you guys meet? And she was like, back in those days, I had to sneak out of the house, or so it was more special. And we had a few dates. We went to the cinema. I think she mentioned we watched Grease together. And after a few dates, he was like, yeah, let's just get married.
Just like make this easy.
That's great. And she says, even though we're not having a lot of common things, you make it work. And she says, I think nowadays people have it much harder because with the social media, everyone puts everything out. There's no mystery, and you kind of lose, that the sacredness, I would say, of connection.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
so one of the things, thank you. I think that's sort of what I'm talking about the difficulty and the beauty of technology, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do we stay connected and feel and get turned on and sneak out of the house and, like go down the alley and, go running on the beach. Like, it's like, oh, wow,
Andy met Rani online, so he's also someone that has an online success story.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because Ronnie, like, we met online, but it wasn't a dating site. And for the first several years of our relationship,
what kind of site was it, Andy?
You're gonna hate this. It was an expat site, so where expats go to sort of have meetups.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and we were in the Netherlands, and I put on, my profile. She said she really liked it because it said, I am not interested in females. I'm not interested in a relationship. If you have baggage, don't bring it to my doorstep. I did the whole, just the whole thing. And she said, yeah, you made it really easy to say yes, because she was getting a divorce at that time, and she just wanted company without the burden, right? And I would say, in a way, I felt more like my relationship with Ronnie is a partnership more than it was the love arrow that hit me. And then, I would say I've loved Ronnie more each year we've been together. So some cycles would go high peak of, oh my God, I'm in love. And then, oh my God, that bitch. Oh my God, she does this. Oh my God, I never would have gotten involved. Like, that was kind of how I lived before Ronnie. And then with Ronnie, it was a bit more like I was very I loved being with her, but it was more like I was doing a lot of self-investigation. So for the first few years, I don't know how she tolerated me because I was really working on me. And working on me and in a relationship isn't always an easy thing because you're trying to figure your own shit out, and it gets messy sometimes because you don't, I've only seen afterwards that as I'm clear, I can hold space for another person. But when I'm not clear, it's really hard to hold space for another because all my shit bleeds into the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it took me quite some time to come out of that, to where our relationship became a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Where I'd use words like life partner, if it didn't sound so pathetic. But yeah, it's like there's a partnership which we've dedicated to being together. And there's something beautiful in that. I think it's hard to find that at 20 or 30, because you're looking for those peak experiences. You want the sex. You want sex with multiple partners. You want to have and feel alive. And there's something about that.
Validation.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
validation. I see, like, the funniest thing I see. I've been in kind of a funny situation. Different men. If you want to see like a great friendship go to shit, put two men in a room with several females, and then try to see them nominate which female belongs to them. Like, I've got dibs on this woman. I'm interacting with her. Stay away. Yeah. And it's like this human, like, weird dynamic that just baffles me. It's like this, it's that primordial part of the male brain, which has no consciousness. It's only focused on goal orientation of conquering.
Mm-hmm.
And I just see that in that younger brain. I had it, right? I mean, I remember that very, almost a chemical thing. And I just see age as well has dampened the chemicals, and I'm sort of more grounded in that energy. I still have it, but of course the hormones go down, and you're not like, you don't do as idiotic things as you used to.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that wasn't Bambos I was discussing.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Even though Bambos has had that experience too.
Just want to make sure.
And as I'm looking at you, I'm like, you're so pale. And me and JoAnn are so brown. It's
I know.
So good.
It's so good, right? He looks like oh no.
I'm putting on my Steven Spielberg hat now. We're directing this, okay?
One of the things that I loved about in my relationship with Andy was that after this whole thing happened and I shared it with him, Andy goes, okay, we're going to make an agreement that if at any time anybody ever asks you for money, you send them to me, as I'm your business advisor. And I was like, I love you. Thank you. Like, it was so good for my, because that place takes you to so much shame and you feel so isolated in it. I felt so isolated in it. I think people who are in that feel isolated. Also, you don't want to listen to anybody. You go into a zone. I talked to somebody recently. This woman lost millions of dollars to this whole scam, millions. And, and she wouldn't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
Because you go into believing something and you believe it and you grasp it and you're holding it. So, like, I think the one thing that I would say is, really find a good friend and say, I need help because I think I'm cuckoo.
I'm going to send you to my business advisor. My business advisor over here will take care of it.
Yeah.
So everyone watching, Andy is your new business advisor.
New business advisor.
Tell them,
a dating scam.
And just say to them, and my business advisor doesn't begin anything unless you send him your business plan. So just send him your business plan. He needs to see it.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll get him angry. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have to say that I am so grateful that you allowed us to go into this, because I know when we discussed it, there was like the first thing was like, Andy, like, there's so many other subjects we can discuss. Like, why this one? And
well, I think it's a good one because I think it happens, and I think a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and it's mortifying on a certain level, but it's also there's a lot to learn and hopefully avoid. And, I think the more we hear about it, like when I heard about, man, I got to open a gate. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, go.
When I heard about other people, it really helped, Yeah. It just really helped. And it just, like, so we can help each other there, like, because it's a tricky territory, the heart and love and connection and
there's
online dating.
There's people out there that are waiting to capitalize on the needs of others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, I got to jump.
I love it. I send you a hug and love. Yeah,
I
thank
love
you.
you guys. It's so good to be with you.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Love you. Bye.
All
It was about time.
Yeah, it was. It was, wasn't it? Hmm. Hmm. This is our last show, Bambos, before we are on hiatus.
Yes. Do we want to share a little bit about the summit?
Yeah. Yeah, we do want to share about the summit.
What are the
July.
what are the dates, Andy? Again?
July. We're coordinating what, as far as I'm concerned, the unsummit summit, the unretreat retreat. We will be spending a week together. 3 of those days are organized, and we are going to come together, sit in a room, write our names, see what we all want to offer, and then whoever wants to sign up for anyone's offering, they can self-organize, and we spend time together, and we enjoy each other's company, and we learn and we grow without any need, desire. Everyone gets to present, and if no one wants to join you, hey, then just no one joins.
Yeah.
There's no offense or anything. It's just organic, and it's sort of like my dream come true, because in a way it's no different than a wonderful chaos. We come here, we let the guest in some ways guide us to what makes sense on a show. And so I'm thinking to myself, why not just do that on a bigger scale over several days with a swimming pool and organic food that's made fresh every day by Jules Toro at Hidden Paradise. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the vision. And I see it as an annual summit, right? We come together, 3 days organized, 4 days unorganized. But the 4 days might even be organized, right? Because I just want 3 days where we say we dedicate to it. But I'm sure that people will say, hey, let's keep doing this. So, yeah. But there's a lot to do there. And we've been there several times. You've been there several times for things. And it's a great place to visit. So
Yeah, we've also been there together.
the dates are in July. You have to look, and we're going to come to people and ask for confirmations in the next week, because we need to firm up the reservation and tell them how many people are going to show up.
Yeah.
So it's a very exciting experience.
Chaos.
And we're going to be away for a month. So we want to say first, sorry to Bolalang. Bolalang, we know it's going to be hard for you to get through that month without us. So I will be putting up podcasts for you if you want to have listens to of our edited versions, which are always a little bit better. I was told by Cass Midgley, he edits out all the nonsense. So makes it sound better.
And of course, Iris Ofer, who also listens daily.
Yeah, it is. She hasn't said. And of course, JC Barnett and Magda, who are always here with us. So we're sorry that you won't have us for a month, but we'll prepare. We've already got shows booked into September. So, and we've got a lot of fun ideas, and and they keep coming. If you have ideas, unique ideas, vulnerable people with interesting stories, send us a direct message so we can connect with these people. Yeah,
Embodied people being the preference.
Yeah, embodied people, not people that know a lot. We don't need people that know a lot. We want people who fully can live and be comfortable with their own vulnerability, so we can dance with them in this fun little space we call a wonderful chaos. So, Bambos.
So, Mr. Shalef, shall we do it?
We say goodbye for the month. We love you, and we see you in a month. And where are we not going to do that for a month on, Bambos?
On a wonderful chaos, Mr. Shalef. On a wonderful chaos.
Chaos. Bye-bye.